good afternoon. It's a couple minutes after 4, and I don't have anybody who's joined my Zoom yet, so I am going to get started without an audience today. So, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Erica, and I am the lab demonstrator for the MLA program at VCC. So, in that role, I get to teach students in the lab. I also work at St. Paul's Hospital as a medical lab assistant. So I'm the person that goes around and collects blood, and I do a fair bit of training practicum students there as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. And let's get started. Today we are going to talk about Duolingo as an adult learning tool. So I'd like to begin by doing a territorial land acknowledgement. I respectfully acknowledge that I am teaching from the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. If you, like me, are a settler in Canada, I encourage you to research the peoples whose land you occupy and who have been the traditional caretakers of this land since time immemorial. I'd also like to let you know that if I am speaking too quickly, speaking too quietly, if you need me to clarify a point, or if you're unable to adequately see the slides, please let me know. I believe that all of us have unlimited potential in our learning journeys. I believe that we all belong here in this learning and teaching environment, and I'm committed to the identification and removal of barriers to learning. Also, closed captioning and meeting transcripts can be turned on or off under the More button on your Zoom screen. Okay, so what is Duolingo? Well, Duolingo is the most popular language learning app in the world with over 13.4 million users per month. It can be used to learn over 40 languages, including English, French, Spanish, Irish, Swahili, and Mandarin. Duolingo also offers lesser known programs such as music and math, but today we will be focusing on how to use Duolingo for language learning. Duolingo uses a gamified approach to language learning with lessons that incorporate translating, interactive exercises, quizzes, and stories to make learning engaging and fun. It also uses a unique algorithm that adapts to each learner's level and learning style, providing personalized feedback and recommendations based on individual progress. Just some interesting information that I came across while I was researching. Here you can see that the most commonly studied language in Canada is French. In Europe, Africa, and South America, English is the most commonly studied language on Duolingo, and in the USA, Spanish is the most studied language. Something else that I find very interesting is how the war on the Ukraine has influenced the languages that people want to study around the world. Following Russia's invasion in February of 2022, more than 1.3 million people around the world started studying Ukrainian on Duolingo. There was significant learner growth in countries like Poland, Czechia, and Germany, the countries receiving the largest number of Ukrainian refugees. But this increase in interest was seen around the world. The amount of people learning Ukrainian has remained steady throughout 2023, and learners state that they see learning Ukrainian as a way to show solidarity. Globally, 37% of new learners are studying Ukrainian to connect with people. So you can see here that language is primarily used for communication, but also language is something that represents our values, our interests, and our desire to connect with the world around us as well. What motivates new language learners? Well, that depends. Around the world, Gen Zers are picking up languages for personal reasons, whether it's to show political solidarity or to complement their interests. And this has led to a growth of interest in less commonly studied languages. For example, over half of those studying Ukrainian are Gen Z, and the growth of popular Asian languages is driven by younger learners as well. 86% of people studying Japanese and 76% of Chinese learners are under 30. On the other hand, 25% of millennials say their reason for studying is work-related, and 26% say they are studying to improve travel experiences. So as you can see here, the younger generation tends to study for personal reasons and to connect with others, and the millennials largely study for practical reasons, whether that be to improve their workplace or to improve their prospects at work or for traveling. Okay, so now that we've talked about who is studying on Duolingo and why, let's jump into the more practical aspects of this app. First, let's discuss the basic version of Duolingo and how it can be used to learn a new language. So Duolingo Basic, it's the free version. It uses gamified learning, interactive lessons, quizzes, stories, etc. But unfortunately, it does have advertisements. So once you enter into your Duolingo app, you're brought to the home screen. This acts as a map of your progress. So each circle contains 5 lessons, and each lesson takes approximately 3 minutes to complete, meaning that one circle can be completed in about 15 minutes. I like that the lessons are broken up into bite-sized chunks, as this allows the user to complete a lesson or two, take a break if they need to, and then get back to it when they have a few minutes. We all live very busy lives, and sometimes you only have 10 or 15 minutes to dedicate to something before you have to switch tasks. But in this way, you can come back to it whenever you have a spare few minutes. So once you enter a lesson, you're brought to your first exercise. In this exercise, the learner is required to read the sentence and then answer a basic comprehension question. I really like that Duolingo gives the option to listen to the sentence verbally instead of reading to it if you like, as I think this allows the material to be accessible to a wider range of learning styles. It also helps the beginner learner to listen for correct pronunciation. So as you can see on that screen there, you can either read the sentence and then select the correct answer, or you can click that blue square and it'll read out the sentence for you. Here's another example of a different kind of question. This one's a fill in the blank. One thing that caught my eye when I first started looking at Duolingo for this assignment is the array of cute and diverse characters that guide you through your learning. There are old and young characters, men, women, non-binary looking folks, and different occupations represented as well. And I appreciate Duolingo's attempt at addressing EDI principles in this way. I found that to be really interesting. So on to the next. Here's another type of question. In this one, the learner is required to listen verbally to the word and then select the correct spelling and pronunciation of the word that they heard. So in this example, the user needs to choose the sound on, which is a suffix meaning ing. And these suffixes are important in later lessons because they are used to build on to new words. So this is one example of how Duolingo builds subsequent lessons based on previous knowledge. So those were some examples of different types of questions you might see in your Duolingo lesson. This is a screen that shows up at the end of your lesson. It's called your streaks page. So streaks are one way that Duolingo attempts to motivate the learner to keep going. So each time you finish a lesson, you're brought to this page where you're shown how many days in a row you have learned with Duolingo. I know in my house, it is an emergency if there is a risk of a streak being interrupted. My family competes for who has the longest streak, and this strategy of encouraging engagement by keeping track of streaks is definitely effective. Another way that Duolingo encourages continued engagement is with this league feature. So users are ranked against each other from all over the world, and then they are promoted or demoted every Saturday based on how many lessons they have completed. This takes the gamification model to a more competitive level. Okay, so now we've talked about the features of Duolingo Basic. Let's talk about the upgraded versions and what they have to offer. So for $19.99 a month, you could get Duolingo Super. So one complaint that users have about the basic version of Duolingo is that you can only make 5 mistakes in a day. If you have more than 5 mistakes, you're not allowed to continue with your lesson until you wait an hour to earn back each new try. So if you want to have those 5 mistakes back, you have to wait for 5 hours. I find that this hurts motivation and takes away the freedom to explore and make mistakes. And as we know, mistakes are fundamental to the learning process. So in Duolingo Super, they've addressed that. You're able to make unlimited mistakes, and you're also able to review the mistakes you've made at the end of the lesson and try them again. Duolingo Super also has no ads, which is a big plus. Next upgrade is Duolingo Max. This one is $29.99 a month, and it includes everything that is included with Duolingo Super, plus the added bonus of an AI chatbot feature and an Explain My Answer feature. So the AI chatbot feature allows users to practice real-world conversation skills with the characters in the app. So users are chatting with an AI that is responsive and interactive, and the feature guides users through different scenarios. So for instance, you can pretend to order a coffee at a cafe in Paris, or you can discuss future vacation plans with a certain character in the app. The Explain My Answer feature gives users the chance to learn more about their response in a lesson. So whether their answer was correct or incorrect, users can tap a button after certain exercises to enter a chat with a Duolingo person to get an explanation on why their answer was right or wrong. They can also ask for examples or clarification. This feature is designed to help when you've made a mistake and you're unsure what the right answer is. It can also help in instances where you keep making the same types of mistakes over and over again and you're not sure where you're going wrong. Okay, so we're going to move on to the 4 E's now. I'm going to start with excite. So there are a number of strategies that Duolingo uses to excite the learner and to keep them coming back. They have mastered the gamified approach. They offer a large selection of courses, and the characters in the game are cheeky and entertaining. One feature I haven't mentioned yet that I think does a great job of exciting the learner is the ability to play with friends. It's possible to follow a friend and cheer them on when they hit a milestone, or even to compete in a weekly quest together to earn special rewards. For these reasons, I give Duolingo an A+ for its ability to excite the learner. On to engagement now. Again, I think the gamified model really helps to keep Duolingo users engaged. More specifically, Duolingo encourages daily practice by implementing streaks. Users are rewarded for consecutive days of learning, and breaking a streak can serve as a disincentive for missing a day. This keeps learners engaged and committed to regular practice. The leaderboard also serves to increase learner engagement by creating a little bit of friendly competition between users. One way that I think Duolingo could even further increase engagement is by explaining why each skill is important at the start of each lesson or concept. Learners love to know what's in it for me or why is this important, and by answering these questions for the learner, Duolingo could be even more engaging. For these reasons, I give Duolingo an A for its ability to engage the learner. Evaluate. Duolingo lets the learner know they're getting it by telling them immediately if they got their answer right or wrong. If they're incorrect, the correct answer is shown. If they're incorrect on multiple questions, the learner is required to complete those questions again in the next lesson. I think Duolingo could do more to explicitly show the learner which areas they're doing well in and which areas need more practice and focus. I think it would be helpful to have a summary at the end of each lesson that tells you specifically how you're doing in reading, writing, pronunciation, etc. For these reasons, I give Duolingo a grade of A- on its ability to evaluate the learner. And now the last of the 4 E's, educate. According to the Duolingo research team, users who completed the beginning level course materials, which requires 112 hours of study on average, had the same reading and listening comprehension levels as students who completed 4 semesters of university language courses. 112 hours is about half as long as it takes to complete 4 university semesters. So the research here looks pretty good for Duolingo. I'm, however, a little bit concerned about the reliability of this research, as Duolingo had a vested interest in making it look like their program works. So I went looking for some more research. After reading a few different reviews and articles, and considering the feedback that I've heard from friends and family that use Duolingo, the overall theme that I hear is that Duolingo is a great way to get started on learning a new language, but you won't get to an adequate level of fluency and proficiency without also practicing with real speakers of your target language. According to Sophie McDonald and Michael Cristiano of Fluento.com, assuming that you use Duolingo as it's supposed to be used, logging on every day, using all of its features, reviewing occasionally, it's likely that you'll still struggle to learn a language from only Duolingo. The opportunities of the opportunities for actually speaking the language are quite limited, and the lack of authentic content, vocabulary, and grammar explanations would render this program difficult to use as a sole language learning method. Overall, you would definitely need to supplement your Duolingo learning with other resources to round out your language skills. For these reasons, I give Duolingo a B on its ability to educate the learner. So as we just discussed in the previous slide, even if you faithfully practice with Duolingo on a daily basis, it's still not likely to be enough to make you proficient in your target language. So what else is needed? How can one become proficient? Here are some tips to utilize in conjunction with Duolingo. First tip, talk with real people. There is nothing quite as good as practicing what you've learned with a real live human who is a native speaker of the language you are trying to learn. Hearing their natural pronunciation and intonation is invaluable. If you don't have access to native speakers of the language, try going to restaurants or shopping centers where you might encounter the target language, or maybe even plan a trip, if that's possible for you, to a place where you will be immersed in the language and culture. Step out of your comfort zone and practice your skills. My next tip, use your imagination and make it fun. Imagine a trip to the zoo with your friend. What might you say in conversation? Or maybe you're an international spy, and do you have today's newspaper is no longer just a monotonous and outdated sentence that you learn on Duolingo, but a secret code phrase that you must say to an FBI informant. Practice using what you've learned in fun and imaginative ways, as this will make it more memorable. Write it down or say it out loud to even further encourage that long-term memory retention. And my final tip, for some languages, Duolingo offers podcasts for people at intermediate levels, consisting of stories told by native speakers from different parts of the world where the target language is spoken. They use simplified grammar and vocabulary and slower intonation and include occasional assistance with context and explanations of unusual words. The podcasts are mainly focused on improving listening comprehension, but they can also work wonders for speaking as well if the participant practices saying out loud what they hear. So we're nearing the end of my presentation about Duolingo as a language learning tool. I just want to pause here on the references list. This will also be available in the transcripts at the end if you'd like to review those further. Lots of good information in there. Finally, I want to mention that my presentation is under license with CC. And I want to say thank you so much. And do you have any questions or comments? Okay, have a great day. Thank you.